Super Rugby AU and Aotearoa on Saturday. We got two games. I guess kind of recent rivals. Blues and Hurricanes. The Bowden Barrett versus his brother Geordie. That adds a bit of flavour to this game for sure. And the Brumbies Tars. That's got a bit of a revenge aspect to it going on. So, yeah, both of these games hopefully will be a good watch. The first one, Blues have been the second best team in Super Rugby Aotearoa thus far. Their record is 3 wins and the 1 loss to the Crusaders. The Crusaders are obviously the best team and have not had a defeat. The Hurricanes have only lost to those two teams. They've managed to beat the Chiefs and the Highlanders. So, with only 4 games for the Crusaders left to play, it's hard to see them dropping more than 1 game. But their final game is up against the Blues. But it's possible they could drop 2. It just seems really unlikely. But if the Hurricanes are going to have any shot at getting close to the Crusaders, they need to overtake the Blues first. And now is their chance to do that. So they're at home. They lost to the Blues 30 points to 20 at Eden Park in the opening round of Super Rugby Aotearoa. So a little bit of a revenge aspect for them. Geordie wasn't available for that game, which was a pity. So we'll see what difference he can make. He's kind of been mixed thus far in that he's been like the Iceman cool with that game against the Chiefs, and he had a few, good moments as well, but a few clangers in that game against the Highlanders last week. So, yeah, we'll see. Which Barrett are you guys backing to get the job done? In terms of the lineups, I mentioned Geordie's there at 15. Peter Umaga Jensen comes in at 13, so Arsenal is out. I didn't read that he's injured, but he's certainly not in the squad. Laumape is still there. Garden Bishop takes over from Fletcher Smith. Again, I think that's just a tactical choice rather than any kind of injury-based thing. Fletcher Smith had his shot last week. You wouldn't say he really set the world alight. He was okay. Jackson Garden Bishop's been okay. So, yeah, kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Reed Princep comes back in at 6. Dane Coles is back in after Almoa was really good at hooker last week. I think he was the best hooker of the round. But he drops to the bench to make space for Dane Coles, who's back. Interestingly, Isaiah Walker-Liawere is back. So if him and Blackwell could be playing together, I think that would be a pretty tidy looking locking duo. But, Scrafton's still there, so we'll see how many minutes Liawere gets. But nice to have him there. Via Fafita still can't buy a starting spot. He's still riding the pine. But, yeah, otherwise it's a pretty stable Hurricanes lineup with a few changes. No Devin Flanders, no Fletcher Smith, no Vince Arso, like I mentioned, who all played last week. For the Blues, slightly more changed lineup. Apparently, they were going to play Dan Carter in this game, but he's got a bit of a calf injury now, so he's not going to play, which is a bit disappointing because a lot of people have wanted to see the big man back in action. The big man? The old man? Whatever you want to call him. The legend that is Dan Carter. So he's not there. Bowden Barrett is at 15, and as I mentioned, his battle against his brother will be a really fascinating one to watch. You know who's got the bigger boot, that's for sure. Otiri Black's at 10, Finlay Christie's at 9, so no changes there. Akira Iwane has to move to 8 because Hoskins Satutu is out injured. So Aaron Carroll comes up from the bench to number 6. Dalton Papali'i is still at 7. The front row only changes. Eklund comes up from the bench because Parsons is injured, so he's got concussion. He's not available. Narawa comes in on the right wing, so Talea shifts to the left wing. Talea was a little bit exposed against George Bridge last week, so how he goes up against the Hurricanes will be one to watch, because so far Talea's story has been an all good news one, but I guess the more you see of him, the more maybe people will figure him out a bit. Rico's still at 13, Plummer's still at 12, so that means our man Faiane is still riding the pine, which is probably a bit unfortunate. They've had to make a few changes on the bench. Luteru comes in as the reserve hooker, Renata's back, Kauli Tuioti is there, and Tony Lambourne's come into the loose forward cover as well. He's a good player, so I'm kind of happy to see him jump in there. Tom Robinson's still not available. I mentioned Satutu and Parsons, Carter. None of those guys are available either. There's other guys injured, but those are the ones who've been recently talked about. The Hurricanes are the favourites for this one, but it's predicted to be pretty close. Rugby forecast algorithms got the Hurricanes by 3 points. The bookies have got it even a little bit closer. They're saying Hurricanes by 1 point. So hopefully it should be a good one, man. I hope they get a decent crowd out to see Bowden back. Maybe people give him a bit of a good booing down in Wellington. I mean, he's been the star player for those guys for such a long time. I think it'd be good to get out there and give him a bit of stick. The Wellington one is I guess that in terms of the crowds, they've been getting the most negativity about their attendance numbers compared to some of the others. So, yeah. It's partly just those bloody yellow seats are so bright that you really notice any empty seats. So hopefully people get out for that one. The next game is Super Rugby AU. It's the Waratahs up against the Brumbies. It's kind of a team that used to be the powerhouse after they were the powerhouse, and the balance of power has been shifting back and forth with the Reds interjected there a little bit as well. But it's the Brumbies at the moment who are the hot dog in Super Rugby AU. They've only played the one game, and they did get a win. It probably wasn't as convincing as they would have liked. But prior to lockdown, they were far and away the best of the Aussie teams. The Waratahs had been pretty poor. And they didn't look that much better when things got restarted, but they did get a win over the Western Force last week. So they've picked up a win, maybe a bit of confidence there. Young squad, as guys have mentioned, so every game they get is a lot more experience for them. However, these teams did meet, as I mentioned, prior to lockdown. It was the last game of Super Rugby before, the end of Super Rugby 2020's regular season. And the Waratahs got a hiding. It was over in Canberra, and it was 47 points to 14. It was a brutal one. The Waratahs got pretty well dismantled. So a little bit of a revenge aspect for this one. Interestingly, I have seen them selling tickets for this one. Like the first Waratahs game at the SCG, they were like the ballot for selected Waratahs season ticket holders or members, but this time it seems like they've actually got tickets for sale. There's a bunch of stuff that says like if you're sick, don't go. If you've been in contact with anyone with COVID, don't go. So there's all those things that people should be sensible about, but at least they seem to be selling tickets, which is nice to see. The Waratahs lineup has had a few changes, but not a whole lot. Walton moves from 12 to 13. That makes way for Carmichael Hunt, who comes in to start at 12. And he was good when he came on in their last game, so that's good to see. Tom Robertson's back at loosehead, which is nice to see. He's back in the squad. And Jack Dempsey's up from the bench to take over in the number 8 jersey. Will Harris drops to the bench in that place. Gus Bell also drops to the bench to make way for Robertson. Tom Horton jumps up from the bench. He swaps with Robbie Abel, so they're swapping the hooker role. So yeah, it's a few guys swapping around from the bench into the starting lineup. Nawani Dawase is down to the bench, and Alex Newsom is on the left wing. So yeah, it's more of a shuffle round than kind of any wholesale changes. The Brumbies have got Tom Banks back, which is good news. At 15, he wasn't available in that first week. There's still no Solomon Akata. But otherwise, their squad is pretty stable. The starting 15 seems to be exactly the same as that first round, other than Tom Banks being back at fullback. So still Slipper, Fainga, Alatoa, Swain Douglas, Valtini, Kusak, Samu. Really good forward pack. Lolosio and Powell 9 and 10. So yeah, it's the same team. Mac Hansen's also come in on the bench. Otherwise, the bench seems to be the same as well. So it's going to be the question of that pack, isn't it? The Brumbies didn't really seem to get the edge in that first game against the Rebels. They were actually getting on the wrong side of the ref in some of the areas of the game, but there was a bit of criticism of the way the ref actually, controlled some of the areas like the scrum. So if the Brumbies can get on top at set piece time, it could be a long night for the Tars, but Tars are bouncing back from a win. They got Tom Robertson back, so he's experienced more so than Gus Bell, even though Gus Bell is a pretty good player, for a youngster. So I don't know. It's going to be a hard one to pick. The bookies have got the Brumbies by 8, and Rugby Forecast algorithms got the Brumbies by 6. So either just outside a converted try or just inside a converted try. Either way, the Brumbies are the favoured ones to go. But yeah, we'll see how these games go. I reckon they could be pretty interesting ones. As I mentioned, the Tars, a young team. Bit of pressure on them, I guess, being at home. against the favoured Brumbies team, but the pressure is certainly on the Brumbies as the ones to get a win. The Blues, they've won down in Wellington before lockdown, so that won't be totally foreign to them, but the Hurricanes' discipline in that pre-lockdown game was atrocious, so it'll be a good challenge for the Blues to see if they can bounce back after a tough loss against the Crusaders and prove they're a contender, or has it all been a bit flash in the pan? I guess we'll find out on Saturday. You guys let me know your thoughts on the games. How do you think they're going to go? Who are you picking to get the wins? And yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later. Right, guys, so if you are looking to get your fix on rugby and it's Super Rugby Aotearoa or Super Rugby AU that you want to watch, ESPN Plus seems to be the best option out there in terms of pricing, because they're at $4.99 American per month. However, you have to live in America. If you don't, you can do what I'm doing here and use a VPN. The one I use is ExpressVPN. The link for that is down in the description. There's like a sign-up code for 3 months free if you go for a year, 30-day money-back guarantee and all that jazz. But give it a crack. Connect to a server in America. That's what I'm doing here. I'm on Seattle. And when you go to a site like this one, ESPN Plus, so ESPN.com/ESPN Plus, instead of getting a page error like this one, you will actually get the content which Americans would be able to see, because you're kind of now technically in America. So like, I've already got an ESPN Plus account. You can see here, you know, sign up for $4.99 a month. If you click that, it'll take you through to a standard sign up page. You know, you've got to give your name, you've got to give your email address and a credit card. I think you can use PayPal as well, but when I tried PayPal, it didn't work. I used the credit card. I think the one thing you might have to do is Google a American postcode. I had to Google an American postcode to be able to sign up. But essentially, you sign up and it's $4.99 a month. Once you're signed up, you get into your account. Like I'm in my account here. It's got all the stuff. It's got some UFC. Anything with ESPN Plus in the corner of the image is the stuff that you can stream. So it looks like there's some like FA Cup stuff and some movies like Bruce Lee. There's some UFC, other stuff like Serie A, football if you're into that. But basically what I'm into is the rugby. So I'm going to the magnifying glass, typing rugby. And the only rugby that's on at the moment is Super Rugby Aotearoa and Super Rugby AU. So as I record this, here are the upcoming games. In this first row, you can see all to see the full list. And then here are the on-demand games if you want to go back and watch them. If you missed them live or you just want to go back and watch them. So you can see all to see the previous ones as well. So yeah, man, it's pretty much as simple as that. If you click on an upcoming one, it's going to tell you it hasn't started yet. If you want to watch it live, you can at the start time. If you want to watch it on demand, you just go here and watch it on demand. You do have to be a little bit careful. See these duplicated ones. You want the ESPN Plus one, not the ESPN2 one. That's the only kind of word of advice that I would give. But yeah, guys, ESPN Plus using the VPN. As I said, link to the VPN in the description if you want to give that a crack. As I said, it's got a 30-day money-back guarantee, so give it a try, and if you don't like the way it works, you can just get a refund. But simple as that, guys. Talk to you again soon. See you later.